Today, we will introduce you to the book, When? The Scientific Secrets of Perfect Timing. If we were to summarize the book in one sentence, it conveys the real impact of timing far exceeds our imagination, and mastering the art of timing is one of the keys to success. Before we dive in, please click on the subscribe button below to stay updated. The author of this book is science writer Daniel Pink. In our lives, everyone wonders how to accomplish things or do them better. There are already many books on the market trying to answer and guide this question, such as Peak, Secrets from the New Science of Expertise, and The Art of Doing. However, these books either discuss what to do or how to do it. This book, on the other hand, explores when to do things. Through a plethora of recent research, it tells you that sometimes the timing of doing things can exceed our expectations. For example, there is a saying, lose an hour in the morning, and you will spend all day looking for it, implying that the morning is the best time of the day, which we all know. However, most people don't know exactly how important the morning is. Daniel Pink states in this book that the importance of the morning is such that if you dare to move a meeting from the morning to the afternoon, you might incur economic losses. The book also discusses how a person's mood changes significantly with time, high in the morning, low in the afternoon, and rebound in the evening. Moreover, the best way to rest during work is not to take a long nap at noon but to drink a cup of coffee first, and then take a 25-minute nap. Often, just knowing the principles is not enough. You need to understand their significance and severity, which is the difference between the scientific method and traditional wisdom. Only in this way can we determine our actions based on these principles. Otherwise, the result is knowing many principles but still living poorly. Next, I will explain 3 parts to help you understand whether Mencius, the timing is not as good as the location, and the location is not as good as the harmony among people. Or even pigs can fly if they stand at the right time is more accurate. These 3 parts are the timing of starting things, the timing during the process, and the timing of ending things. Part 1. First, let's talk about the timing of starting. Many parents are confused about why their children increasingly stay up late. This isn't a matter of personal habit or simply playing too much and not wanting to sleep. It might be purely a matter of helplessness. The saying, the plan of a day lies in the morning, applies to working adults but not to middle school students. Lack of sleep can lead to obesity, immune system disorders, mood problems, and other symptoms. More crucially, without a good start in the morning, the entire day's work cannot be done well. Therefore, some states in the U.S. have reformed and allowed schools to start classes later. 9,000 high school students benefited from this reform, with their school start time changed to 8:35. Studies found that these students' academic performance improved, attendance rates increased, and truancy rates significantly decreased. Another larger-scale study proved that delaying school start times could increase high school graduation rates by 11%. Moreover, the study found that students in high schools with later start times had enhanced motivation and self-control, fewer cases of depression, and significantly improved moods. You see, even something as simple as the timing of class can have such an important effect. Other things like employment are even more affected. In the 1980s, the U.S. unemployment rate was relatively low, around 6%. But in 1982 and 1983, the unemployment rate exceeded 10%. You might think the difference between these 2 numbers isn't significant, but the research results are beyond our expectations. Researchers studied college graduates between 1979 and 1989, tracking their income over 20 years. It was predictable that graduates in 1982 and 1983 had a hard time finding ideal jobs and had lower starting salaries. However, the surprising part was that even 15 years later, the average income of graduates from 1982 and 1983 was still 2.5% lower than those who graduated in normal years. They had to wait 20 years to catch up with their peers' income levels. This means if you graduate at 22 during a high unemployment year, even if you find a job, your salary will be lower than those who graduated before and after you, and this effect will follow you until you're around 40. Considering inflation, on average, your total income over 20 years will be $100,000 less than others. During high unemployment times, the job market's mindset is different. Companies become very picky about hiring, your job choices are limited, and your starting salary is low. Even if the annual raise percentage is the same, you still start lower every year. Moreover, people usually don't find their most satisfying job as their first job. They might have to change jobs several times to find the best fit. But if the employment situation is bad, you don't have the freedom to change jobs, making it harder to find the best match. So it's a domino effect. There are more serious situations. In the U.S., some hospitals known as teaching hospitals are generally associated with university medical schools, where teaching and medical practice go hand in hand. Research found a July effect in these hospitals, where medical accidents are significantly higher in July compared to other months. This is because July is when new doctors start at the hospital, and their inexperience leads to more mistakes. Statistics show that the number of deaths clearly due to medical accidents in July is 10% higher than in other months. If you count all surgery-related deaths, the mortality rate in July is 41% higher than in April and May. These studies show that even a small initial difference can lead to significant differences later on. What if the initial difference is already substantial? For example, it is a recognized fact that people born in the 70s face better circumstances than those born in the 80s. When the 80s generation started working, good job positions had already been taken by the 70s generation, and good houses had already been bought by them. So, what will the gap between these two groups be in the next 20 years? University graduation and high school class times are things we cannot control, but some things you can decide for yourself. When you decide to do something, you should consider not only how much you want to do it, and how it aligns with your long-term goals, but also whether now is the right time to start. This is about the timing of starting. Next, let's discuss the second part, timing during the process. Part 2. I understand seizing the opportunity as being sensitive to timing. What does the morning mean? What does the afternoon mean? What does the beginning mean? You should be aware of these things in advance to respond positively. What does it mean when something reaches the middle stage? Let's first talk about the middle stage of life, which is middle age. Recently, a term called middle-aged greasy has become popular, describing middle-aged people who are either unkempt, narcissistic, or like to show off, making them unappealing. Middle-aged greasy is a new term. Previously, when people thought of middle age, they first thought of the midlife crisis. Depicted in many movies and novels, describing how middle-aged people face a series of problems in family and career, feeling powerless and helpless. However, the midlife crisis lacks scientific evidence. Various large-scale studies have not found proof of a midlife crisis. This book mentions a 2010 study involving 340,000 people, asking them to rate their current life satisfaction. The result was that middle-aged people gave the lowest scores. From age 18, life's happiness curve is a U-shaped curve. People in their 20s are very happy, but happiness declines at ages 30 and 40. On average, happiness reaches its lowest point at 52.9 years. After that, happiness increases, and as people age, they feel increasingly happy. This study has been replicated, and the results are reliable. Surveys in 72 countries with different cultures and customs also showed this U-shaped curve. Why is this the case? Is 53 a life hurdle? One theory suggests that middle-age decline is due to disappointment. Young people, even if not doing well, still believe in a hopeful future. By 53, people realize that some wishes will never come true, leading to great frustration. After 53, they get used to it. Lower expectations lead to higher happiness. However, this theory cannot explain why even great apes have a midlife slump. Caretakers of apes assessed their happiness at different ages and found that middle-aged apes are the least happy. Apes probably don't have high expectations for their lives, right? Perhaps the midlife slump is not that complicated. Maybe everything reaches a low point in the middle stage. If you look at any process from a broader perspective, the U-shaped curve is everywhere. Pink gives an interesting example. There is a Jewish holiday called Hanukkah, celebrated for 8 days. Besides family gatherings and eating traditional foods, an important ritual is lighting candles. Lighting Hanukkah candles is particular. You use 1 candle to light others, lighting 2 on the first day, 3 on the second day, and so on until the 8th day, lighting 9 candles, totaling 44 candles. However, people rarely use all 44 candles because they don't light candles every day. The proportion of people lighting candles each day also forms a U-shaped curve. Most people light candles on the first and last days, with many slacking off in between. Even those with strong religious beliefs slack off. People with strong faith are more likely to light candles on the first and last days, but everyone slacks off in the middle. The first and last days have a strong sense of ritual and are often celebrated with others, making them more significant. The middle days are less important. Thus, the U-shaped curve might be due to slackness. People tend to be enthusiastic at the start, solemn at the end, and relaxed in the middle. You can't always be energetic and focused. Relaxation is natural, so the greatest danger of the middle point is slackness. But not all midpoints are slack points. They can also be burst points. Pink mentions a study on teamwork. At work, we often form temporary teams of people who usually don't work together to complete a project. For example, a hospital might gather doctors to plan a group trip, or a bank might form a team to develop a new business plan. A company might bring together programmers for a new project. These teams involve people who don't know each other well, working towards a common goal within a set time. Researchers found that these team projects have a common pattern: a long period of no progress at the start. People are polite, getting to know each other and discussing ideas, but nothing moves forward. However, at the midpoint, the team realizes half the time is gone and they need to hurry. The midpoint becomes a burst point. People change their work methods, stop arguing, and become very efficient until the project is completed. Researchers followed different teams and found this change almost always occurs at the midpoint. This pattern is also supported by experiments, so the midpoint can be a burst point, but this burst is conditional. It happens when the project is halfway done, a situation of, there is no success without putting in dedication and effort. This helps us understand why life's happiness curve is U-shaped. When people first enter society from school, they are very active and hardworking. You have high expectations, receive good feedback, often feel progress, and are happy. In middle age, people slack off, revealing various shortcomings. Your social roles are stable with no one pushing you, and no one expecting more from you, so you lower your expectations. Some people at this stage become middle-aged greasy. You slack off, society reflects that back to you, and you feel inadequate, reaching the lowest emotional point at 53. However, middle age is also the time when people are most mature in their thinking and comprehensive in their considerations. After reflection, you may feel life is worth living well. You might change your lifestyle and happiness will increase. Therefore, in the middle stage, the key word is slackness. When anything reaches the midpoint, we should first think of this word. If you see the middle point as a reminder, it can be a burst opportunity. After all, a non-slacking middle-aged person wouldn't feel greasy, right? This is about the influence of timing during the process. Next, let's discuss the third part, the timing of endings. Part 3. Many people like running marathons. Some run marathons not for competition or exercise but for sentiment, to prove they have run a marathon. Statistics show that those running their first marathon are mostly at ages ending in 9, such as 29, 39, and 49. The most common age for running a first marathon is 29, double that of 28 or 30. The reason is simple. Ages ending in 9 mark the end of a life stage. A 29-year-old might feel a sense of urgency to run a marathon before turning 30. Many people now make life lists like 10 places to visit before a certain age or 20 things to do before a certain age, as if an incomplete list makes that life stage incomplete. This pursuit of a perfect ending makes us push harder as we approach milestones, like runners accelerating before the finish line. These are positive examples, but there are negative ones too. Statistics show that men are more likely to cheat at ages ending in 9, and there is a 59-year-old phenomenon among corrupt officials, where previously honest officials decide to take bribes before retiring. Our emphasis on endings often exceeds our expectations. There is a story about two bosses, Mr. Peter and Mr. Lee, both successful. Mr. Peter was generous, giving high wages to employees, but before retiring, he suddenly became stingy, often cutting wages, making people dislike him more. 6 months later, he fell ill and died. Mr. Lee was the opposite, being stingy for decades, disliked by everyone. But before retiring, he had a change of heart, offering great benefits, and people felt they rediscovered Mr. Lee. 6 months later, he also fell ill and died. Mr. Peter was a good person for decades but became bad in the last 6 months. Mr. Lee was a bad person for decades but became good in the last 6 months. How do you evaluate Mr. Peter and Mr. Lee? Research shows that people don't see either as absolute good or bad. Their scores are almost the same. This shows the impact of endings. A perfect ending is almost the entirety of success. Earlier we discussed the U-shaped curve where after 53 people's mindset improves, and in their 70s and 80s they are very happy. This is because exploration is over, and they can enjoy life, actively arranging their ending. We often value the ending experience in our daily activities. There was an experiment on the street where researchers gave passers-by chocolate. After eating a piece, they asked for a rating. After the 5th piece, the researchers secretly divided people into 2 groups. For one group, they said, "Here's your next piece of chocolate." They ate and rated it normally. For the other group, they said, "This is your last piece of chocolate." This group savored the piece and gave a much higher rating than the previous 4 pieces. This is actively arranging an ending. Wanting a perfect ending makes us feel it is perfect. When given good and bad news, most people choose to hear the bad news first, preferring to end on a sweet note. These behaviors are about maintaining a perfect ending. However, a perfect ending with all items checked off the list may not be the best ending. Movie screenwriters dislike perfect endings because they are cliched. The protagonist wants something at the start, works hard, and gets it by the end. This formula is outdated. Pink interviewed a senior screenwriter at Pixar. The screenwriter said anyone can write an ending where everything is as desired, but artists shouldn't. A good storyline starts with wanting something, goes through struggles, and ends with realizing the initial desire isn't important. You get what you truly need, gaining unexpected insights and learning a lesson. For example, Pixar's Up features an old man who, with his wife, dreams of traveling the world. His wife dies first, and his house is to be demolished. He ties balloons to the house to fulfill their dream, but the plan faces many unexpected events. The boy insists on joining, and they encounter a once-admired adventurer who turns out to be a villain. The film's ending isn't about achieving the dream but gaining better things they hadn't considered. Seeking a perfect ending is a reasonable psychological need, but also a bias. If things are nearly done, the ending is just a time point. If careful planning can't ensure a perfect ending, it's better to expect a surprise. This covers the timing and its impact on endings. In conclusion, we've covered the main points of Daniel Pink's When, The Scientific Secrets of Perfect Timing. The content is relatively simple, the role of timing at different stages and how to grasp it. However, I want to introduce a concept called energy management. Previously, the concept of time management was popular, addressing how to use fragmented time, undisturbed time, set task lists, single or multitasking, and so on to improve efficiency. Having time is one thing. A person's state is another. The biggest takeaway from the book, When, is considering problems from an energy perspective. We know horses run faster than humans, but you might not know that in long distances humans outrun horses. Horses have strong bursts of speed, suitable for charges and pursuits in battles, but they tire quickly. In long marches, horses might collapse, while humans can walk very far. So soldiers had a saying, "Nurture the horse's strength," often leading the horse on foot to save its energy for battle. This is energy management for horses. In work and life, you need to manage not just time but ensure high energy output when needed. Some people, barely energized, watch TV instead of working effectively for even 25 minutes. Experts must sit tight, keep up, and work efficiently without distractions. While others drag for a week, you should finish in 3 focused hours. Big moves can't be constant. The brain can't always be high. Creative work needs long periods of silence and short bursts of creativity. You need to grasp the rhythm, sometimes fast as the wind, sometimes slow as the forest, aggressive as fire, still as the mountain. This is a skill that requires practice. Goals in the subconscious are a one-shot deal. You should complete a goal at all costs, aiming for long-term high-quality output, rather than specific project success. Only simplicity allows for long-term persistence. Energy managers avoid trivialities. Trivialities drain energy, can't solve big issues, and cause frustration, further draining the energy of those around you. Small matters should be handled in low-energy modes. If your boss drains your energy with trivialities, you should change jobs. That's the essence of this book. The original book link is attached at the end for further reading. You can also click the share button below the video to share this book with your friends. Congratulations, you've just finished another book.